What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Men vs. Movies. We are coming to you live from South by Southwest here in Austin, and I'm joined by my good friend, Zach Pope. You probably know him from his YouTube channel, Zach Pope Reviews. Zach, what did we just see?
We just saw Us, Jordan Peele's brand new film, the headliner for South by Southwest.
And so we are going to get into this review now. Us is written and directed by Jordan Peele, coming in with his sophomore effort, and it stars Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Evan Alex, Shahadi Wright Joseph, Elizabeth Moss, and Tim Heidecker.
Now, Us is about a family serenity after they go on a great trip, turns into chaos when a bunch of doppelgangers of themselves show up and try to kill them.
Shit is a little creepy, to say the least.
Yes.
Because this is a festival review, it's going to be a little less structured than my usual content, a little more off the cuff and free-flowing. Zach, I want to start with you. What are your overall thoughts on Us, and do you think this is a worthy follow-up to Jordan Peele's Get Out? And lastly, do you think, it lived up to the hype?
Man, this was my second most anticipated film of the year. And it lived up to the hype. It actually kind of even exceeded it.
Yeah.
It's way more ambitious than I ever thought it would have been. I think fans of Get Out are going to really appreciate this. I think Jordan Peele's writing is all over this film, and it's hard to compare it to Get Out because even though they're both horror films, they're way different.
They're very different. First of all, Us is, not saying Get Out necessarily isn't bold, but Us kind of goes places that I haven't really seen before. And as opposed to a film like Get Out, a lot of the juice that is in this movie is in its subtext. Now, there's a lot of subtext in Get Out, but I don't think that affects the overall narrative. Whereas in Us, the subtext is so integral to the main narrative, and I agree with you. I was enthralled with this film from the get-go. I loved it even more than I thought I was going to. Hell, I may have even loved it more than Get Out. I tweeted this out from the second I saw it. I think Jordan Peele is the 21st century master of suspense. He has kind of proven himself to be this name in the genre. He will give you chills, he will give you thrills, but he'll give you something to think about when the film is over. And that was probably the most enriching part about watching Us, were the discussions we had afterwards, because there's so much that is left up to interpretation, but he also doesn't leave you out in the dry. He very clearly has a message here, and he's trying to make a point, and I think it's very timely and relevant, and it pertains to today's society, as we, can expect from someone like Jordan Peele, and it made the film all the better for it.
The difference with Get Out and Us is, even though, Get Out, me and my friends had total discussions, months to years, totally talking about the film, because there's so many hidden details, the cotton, all that stuff, stuff you wouldn't notice the first time around, maybe. Us is different, because I think every couple of minutes we'll be talking about something, and then somehow we go back to Us. And it'll be some other thing that we're trying to put the piece together. And it's great because it's so layered. And even though, again, he doesn't leave you in the dust. I thought it was a great conclusion. I thought it ended it perfectly from what a horror film should be, if you want to call this a horror film. It's more of a dark comedy kind of horror film. There's a lot of comedy in here, which worked surprisingly well.
Yeah, no, and just speaking of the comedy, one of the biggest sources of that comedy was Winston Duke. Right, and Jordan Peele said this before the film started. He's like, you're not going to think of him as M'Baku anymore because of how good he is in this film, and I couldn't agree with that statement anymore. Winston Duke, I don't want to say he stole the film, because I think the film, overall, the performances are so excellent that no one person really steals the film. Everyone has their time in the light, but Winston Duke, he really just was incredible with the comedic moments, and especially the writing for that character. It felt like Jordan Peele had written that part for himself and then was like, I can't play this. We got to get someone else to do it. And so you see Winston Duke at times has some Jordan Peele-ish mannerisms, and that definitely has to do with the writing. But I think just Winston Duke overall was such a delight. Definitely a crowd pleaser, and he's going to be one of everyone's favorites walking out of the film.
And I think it was so seamless, because it's you can kind of relate to how he is, because he's just a silly dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's
doing the dab jokes and stuff.
Great,
it's that stuff that you can relate to and laugh about, because people laugh about it all on Twitter. People make jokes about it all the time, and it works seamlessly. But I mean, it's not just him, man. Lupita Nyong'o.
Lupita, you can start the campaign for Best Actress right now in my books because Lupita Nyong'o gives such a versatile performance. I mean, you see, this isn't giving anything away. She's playing two completely different characters. Yeah, actually, and that goes for the whole cast, but it's most effective with Lupita.
There's a lot more depth to them.
Right, because for all intents and purposes, Lupita Nyong'o is the main character of this film. And so just seeing her go back and forth between being the person that she is and being this other kind of person, it's a completely two different people. It is a completely different mindset. When you see her as the person with the red jumpsuit, I'm just getting chills talking about it, and you see her start talking, it freaks you the fuck out.
In the trailers, when you see her like tapping on her face and stuff, and Jordan Peele did the best thing is like how they would film the film is that they would do one day they would film as the nice family, the next day they would film as the doppelgangers, and he said that every time Lupita would be the doppelganger, he would like not want to talk to her. She was just creepy. She was always in character. The big standouts for me, like even though everyone was great, Lupita probably hands down Oscar. The two kids in here are some of the best kid performances I've seen in a while. They come to play. Like they know a serious thing, and it's like when you're watching a film, and especially a horror film where there's a kid, like I love The Babadook. Big issues with that kid. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
And
yes, I do.
And this film, the kids are so good. You're not thinking of them as actors or actresses. You're just getting sunk in. You literally feel like you're in the sunken place while watching this film.
You really do. And, a lot of that has to do with the performances, but I think a lot of it has to do with the writing for this film. Obviously, Jordan Peele, I mean, he won the Oscar for... Deservedly so, yeah. Best Original Screenplay for Get Out. We should expect nothing less than an excellent screenplay in Us, and we definitely get that, and I would say it's more layered. It's very ambitious, and there's just a lot more going on in this film than what we saw in Get Out. And so
in the trailers, because like the trailers look like just a Strangers film with doppelgangers.
Sure.
10 times better Strangers film. This film plays on a lot of those horror tropes, but it is way bigger than you think. And I remember when we were watching the film, the pacing, it felt great. It didn't feel like the 2-hour runtime that it was, but as it was just moving and chugging along, one of the things I realized is that the whole house scene that we see from the trailer, there's so much more to that, and that's a big part of the film. And then it just goes somewhere different, and you don't expect it at all.
This is a very director-heavy film, and naturally with someone like Jordan Peele, you're going to see his vision all over the place. Do you think that he did a good job of bringing his vision to life, or do you think maybe it got a little bit lost in the shuffle?
Jordan Peele's direction and writing and all this was perfectly seamlessly put into here. He wrote it, he directed it, he even produced it. He knew exactly what he wanted to do with us. And I think that is the most important part of this film. This film doesn't just work because of the great, amazing performances. The film works because of Jordan Peele.
I'll say this. You can see why Jordan Peele was tapped to do the Twilight Zone TV series, because this film feels very much like an extension of the Twilight Zone. This film is very Hitchcockian in nature. I'd even throw a little bit of Kubrick in there as well, especially with The Shining. And there's so much violence going on, and it's not necessarily unwarranted, but it works. I think it really plays into the messages he's trying to convey throughout the film, and overall his vision is exceptionally realized. He definitely made the film he wanted to make. I think some people may find issues with it being a little too ambiguous,
and I do think that people will point at plot holes, which again,
when you start dissecting it, I wouldn't say it falls apart, but you can start to. It's just kind of fraying a little bit. Yeah,
maybe it's because I've only seen it once. Yeah. If I see it a second time, I'll be like, oh, that pieces it together.
Well, that's the thing with this film is it's going to require multiple viewings in order to get everything you possibly can out of it.
Especially the ending.
Especially the ending, yes.
Because the ending is, again, no spoilers. We're not going to get into it, but it makes me think. We haven't even talked about the soundtrack yet, and the score.
Oh, we're going to talk about the score. Because the score is incredible.
Absolutely.
Michael Abel's score is unbelievable. And the way he integrated Five on It into the score was genius. Much like the film is very Hitchcockian, but it integrates modern music into it. And so it was just something that while it was, being used in the right moments, it was incredibly effective. And there is one scene, the scene that I'm sure many people will be talking about coming out of this film. I don't want to go into it too much, but oh my God, it was it was lyrical. We'll just say that. That's it. Was I don't want to say much more, but just wow.
I did have my nitpicks. There's a sequence that is a big exposition dump towards the end. Not to the point where you're like, oh, okay, this is stupid. But to the point where I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I'm getting this. Let's move it forward a little bit faster here. And then got to one of the best sequences in the whole film.
Yeah. I'm actually going to disagree with you because I think that... Right. And this is very, indicative of how people are going to feel walking out of the film. While I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is an exposition dump, but I really like how they're doing it. And also it was like, I needed that information a little bit, so it didn't bother me, but I get where you're coming from. Before we give you our final verdict on Us, guys, why don't you take a second here and like this video, share with your friends, and subscribe to this channel for more South by Southwest coverage. We're going to be giving you a bunch of early reviews from the festival, along with, other movie-related content. So if any of that interests you, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button. Before we close this out, Zach, I want to hear your final thoughts on Us, and what are you going to give this on the Men vs. Movies rating scale?
This year of film is going to have a hard... this is my favorite film of the year now. Hands down, I am obsessed with this. Yeah. And, Endgame's coming up, Shazam's coming up, but it's going to take a lot to beat this film down, dude. Just like Get Out made it in my top 10, and it just stuck through me through the year, and I think Us is going to be the same way. This film exceeded my expectations. Peele just knows how to make it right. He can blend both. He can blend the people who love to dive into film and blend it into normal audiences, which is a gift, because not every filmmaker can do that. So, on your scale, I'm going to give it a supercharged. I love it.
I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. I think Peele's directorial effort here is exceptional. He's really doing things that not a lot of filmmakers are, and he's making a name for himself in the horror, thriller, suspense genre, really pushing himself to the forefront. I'm seriously, he's an incredible talent that we just need to continue to be thankful for, that he's able to make the films that he is. Yes. But Peele aside, the performances here blew me away, especially Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, but Lupita Nyong'o, this is Oscar caliber performance here. It's going to be a film that people are going to be contemplating and thinking about for weeks on end. And Michael, our cameraman, is coughing. I can't wait to see it a second time. I wish they were showing it more than once here. It's just... I'm going to be just having discussions with this with people in line at the screening, so I can't wait for that.
Who haven't even seen it, probably.
Exactly, who haven't even seen it. They're going to be like, what are you... Rabbits? Rabbits? And so, for all of those reasons and the reasons I've mentioned throughout my review, I'm ultimately going to be giving Us supercharged. And now we want to hear from you all. We want to know what your favorite Hitchcockian style thriller is down in the comments section below. And are you looking forward to Us? Have you seen it? Are you at South by Southwest? Let us know your thoughts and opinions down there below as well. Mr. Zach Pope, thank you for joining me on this exceptional review, I might add. It was great talking about it with you. Where can everyone find you?
Well, thank you for having me. You guys can find me on YouTube at Zach Pope Reviews, where I'll also be covering some South by Southwest coverage, and also over at Sandwich on Films, where I do other sort of reviews. Sometimes I do exclusive reviews on there, and we also give out advanced movie screens.
But as always, guys, you can like Men vs. Movies on Facebook, follow us on Twitter simply by searching Men vs. Movies. And lastly, if you like me specifically, and you like what I have to say, you can give me a follow on Twitter at Griff Schiller. All right, that's going to do it for this South by Southwest 2019 review. And until next time, take care.